Hi, welcome back to McCarthy Performance. Today's video is going to be me doing a little bit of port work on the intake manifold. I said I wasn't going to do nothing, and after I got the plates matched up on it, um, I couldn't put it together that way. So I'm not getting too far down the road as far as being getting really intense with the port match. I'm just going to kind of gloss over it, make it better than it was. There's parts that don't quite line up right, and for me to take any more material off to try to line it up, it actually needs material put on. And so we're going to take care of the floor, although that's not really a major issue as far as I feel, but we want the port big enough that it's not going to be bottlenecked quite a bit there, even though it's got a supercharger on it. I'd rather have it leave here a little bit closer than right than I guess leaving it like it was. Somebody might say, well, you know, if you're going to do it, you should do it all the way. Well, you know, that could take a day to straighten everything out or better, and just don't have that kind of luxury. I'm not going to charge the customer a lot of money for this because I didn't ask him. His feeling was he was going to do it himself. Not to take anything away from a customer, but when it leaves here, I'd rather not have anybody play with it until, you know, maybe after the fact of maybe the first freshen up, they decide they want to do something. So I kind of like to have them leave here sealed up. I didn't really want him to find a reason to be taking the intake off of it. That could go down a road where, you know, it's better for me to do it now, if that makes any sense. Obviously it must to me because I'm doing it, but you know, I just don't want to get it, well, you know, you never matched it, and you know, it's going to be next year and I'm going to run it and I'm going to pop the intake off. And then I don't know how the engine's going to set, sealed, whatnot, in what environment. I just assume have it, hey, look, I matched it. There's really no reason for you to take the intake off of it. You know, if you fire it up and you run it for a while, if he wants to take it off, then I don't have a problem with it. You know, you get into oil leaks, water leaks, all sorts of leaks. It's like, well, why are you having this problem? It's, well, I took the intake off of it before I started it. Although you put it on there, I wanted to take it off because I wanted to port match it. So I guess that's kind of my theory as far as we're going to go with this, going down this road. I'll show you what's going on with the intake and why I'm doing what I'm doing and where I'm doing it. The floor, like I said, I don't really consider the floor a major issue. If the floor has a little step, and it still will, I haven't taken all of the material out. I've taken as much material as I feel comfortable and what time will let me. And I feel that the little bit is not much of a significance one way or the other. So, and you know, of course, we can always put a thicker gasket on it to center up the port more. Like I said, I always like an exact port match. I feel that as long as the intake port is smaller and it's dumping in, it stops in a reversion. Somebody might say that's bullshit. That's fine. You say whatever you want. I don't really care. But it's better to have it that way than the other way. So, you know, back in the early days, guys used to take oval port heads, 325 horse, 350 horse, 396s, and then GM made a rectangular port. Well, they didn't make a lot of aluminum intakes back in the early days, and you had to run I think my buddy was class racing, you had to run a factory intake. You could run one, but it had to have a factory part number on it. This might be getting out in the weeds, but anyways, seen a lot of square port, rectangular port, call them what you will, on oval port heads. And you want to talk about a ledge, there's quite a difference, and that's all up at the roof, and that's usually where everything matters. So the floor ain't so important at high speed flow, but at the roof, you know, that's like hitting a wall. And they did run pretty good, no matter, you know, it was aluminum intake on an old 25 horse, 350 horse, 396, and it had a square rectangular port intake on it, and they ran. I don't know why they should have, but they didn't run horrible, but it was miserable. So, anyways, that's a little story, probably a story for another day. I'll cut it short. I'll show you what we got going on this intake, and thanks for watching. Okay, you can see there's quite a bit of difference here between this port and the one I have cut out. Now this isn't all the way. It could go down a little bit further, but I don't feel like cutting any more out. It's fairly thick here at the flange, and as the intake rolls to the, we'll call that the valley, there's a fair amount of material there, but I don't want to take any more out of this intake. Somebody else that has designs on bringing that down further, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. I'm not. So they've gone in here and they've ball milled this, which I really wish they hadn't. When they went in here and profiled it, the mill had a ball, so it was a radius. So there's a ledge here, and actually I think on this particular port it should be about here. So we're not going to do much with this. I'm going to square it off here, make that a little bit better. Same here, this is where the port stopped. You can see there's a little jag there and there. And as far as the roof, we're not touching the roof. I'll go back and I'll blend this a little bit better, probably do about like that, and leave it alone. Down here I'll take care of that. So that's what we've got going on. There'll be a little bit of me die grinding and not any talking through this video other than the beginning of it. So it's going to be a lot of air grinding and not a lot of talking. So here we go. Okay, we got this side of the intake done. The other side is already finished. So we've got that cut out. We're pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a finer cut burr, and I'm going to go over this a little bit. And I'm using toilet bowl wax to keep the carbide burrs from plugging up. So we'll hit that. So we're going to hit this. It's got a little bit of waviness to it, not too bad. We'll get that straightened out a little bit. It's not going to be 100%, but it'll be a lot better than it was, and it is already. So we'll get going on it. At this point, everything is fairly to size, so we're just going in and floating over the indifference and the surface area to make it an even finish. Start the carbide, pull back and pull evenly, and try to do it as smooth as you can. Once you get it fairly level, I'll run it back and forth. But usually when I try to get something straight, I'll pull it towards me. Once you get it where you want it. If you're getting a high spot and you don't think you're not getting it out, you can crisscross it. You can go in there like this, and you come back. Okay, well, I think we're going to call that good. Well, I think we're going to call this a done deal now. I went over this with a sanding block lightly to get the burrs off the ports, and then I rescribed the bottom of the ports to make sure that everything was nice and clean and touched it up a little bit. Now, we were talking about pieces of the port or the port area that are missing or yeah, missing. So I could remove a little bit more here, but there's a pretty good gouges in there. I'm going to leave them. Now, how I would repair that, there's two ways that I've done in the past. I've welded it, or what I'll do is I'll take a spring-loaded punch like this, and I'll work up the surface area. And if you don't have one of these, you can use a punch and sharpen it up, or an awl or a scribe, and lightly tap it. And what that'll do is, obviously, it'll raise up the surface and it'll give the epoxy something to hang on to. It's not necessarily needed, but I do that. And what I use is splash zone. So I'd use splash zone in here, and I would fill it, and then I would rework this. But I'm not going to do that because because there's shift in the intake and there's indifference in the ports. So it's a lot better than it was, but that's where we are going to stop on this. But if I was to go ahead and do that, that's how I would do it. I would raise up the surface here with a punch or an awl, and and then I would use A and B putty. I've used JB Weld, but splash zone is pretty much what I use now. But any of them will work pretty decent for something like that. And then smooth it out, of course, and work it out. There's some dings and dents in it here, and I'm just not going to get excited about that. I'm going to leave it. So I hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching.